You grow up hearing about powerful ships and secret weapons and distant wars, and it all feels big but understandable. Humans versus someone, guns versus armor. But Tun's story asks a different question. What if the greatest warship your species ever made slipped off the map for centuries, and then came home carrying rules that don't quite belong to this universe anymore? It really makes you wonder where the line is between a machine you control and a presence you just travel inside. I've always been fascinated by that quiet zone at the edge of any map. The part charts barely bother to name. You know it's there, you know it's empty, and you sort of trust it to stay that way. This time, it doesn't. Out there, in the thin stretch of space everyone forgot, a mining relay looks up and finds mass where there shouldn't be any, moving with the confidence of something that remembers owning fear. So, as you settle in and let your day fall a little further behind you, think of this as a slow walk toward that lonely relay station, because out near two tired stars, a bored technician is about to notice a soft alarm, a wrong number in a mass reading, and realize that the old human legend called Atlas has come back from beyond the map, and it is not quite a ship anymore. Out near the edge of mapped space, there is a corridor the charts barely bother to mark. Ships pass it by, traffic lanes bend around it. It is thin space, dim stars, long distances, almost no radio noise. A good place to forget things. Centuries ago, humanity sent something there that it never got back. A warship so large, it bent strategy around itself. A promise, a warning, a mistake. The TBS Atta. It vanished. The galaxy moved on. Empires rose and faded. Old fears cooled into jokes. Attas became a lesson cadets. Glossed over, a punchline in alien bars. Then, in that same quiet corridor, a mining relay woke up to a shadow that did not belong. Mass where there should be none, silence where there should be chatter, and a shape that fit old, dead records with impossible precision. Attas had come back, but it did not look like any ship built by hands in normal space. It looked like something that had gone out past the map, met a deeper rule of reality, and returned, changed. In history feeds, the first images of Ati made huge. It was a city turned into a weapon, 4 kilometers from bow to stern. Hull armor thick as a tower is tall. Dun decks that ran in long, clean lines. Missile bays like underground silos set on their side. Hangars that could hold whole squadrons of smaller craft in stacked rows. When it launched, old Earth crowded around screens. Children stayed up past curfew. To watch, reporters called it a shield for our species and a promise that humans would not be pushed around. All of that was before faster-than-light travel felt common. Before trade stations sprouted in every busy system. Back then, Atlas felt like the future. It took 10 years to plan, 20 years to build, and 3 more to test. Engineers joked that by the time it flew, it already felt like an antique. But nothing in space could match its raw force. Its first deployments were simple flag shows. Slow passes through friendly systems. Docking at major stations. Broadcasts from its command deck. Captain Mara Ilian, young then, gave clipped, careful speeches about peace. Through strength, other species watched. Some, like the spherical, slow-talking Hilary, kept clear. Others sent polite notes. A few smiled and took bets on how long humans would keep paying to maintain such a giant toy. The Natchaz was sent to the edge. Its mission logs say extended patrol along outer corridor. Its route took it away from busy trade lines, out toward thin space, where only mining guilds and survey ships cared to go. The last full status burst from Ataz listed normal power output, stable crew health, and clear sensors. After that, a string of corrupt packets, static gaps, then nothing. Search groups went out. At first with urgency, then with duty, then with boredom. They checked known hazard zones, gravity wells, radiation hotspots. They scanned for wreckage, hull fragments, debris. They hunted for drive signatures, distress calls, black box beacons. They found empty space. The found empty space. Rumors grew in the gap. Some said a secret human rival had sabotaged it. Some claimed pirates had taken it. Others whispered about a misjump into uncharted physics. Centuries passed. Atta adds aged out of fear and into myth. Aliens made fun of it. Aliens made fun of it. They drew cartoons of a hulking human ship stuck inside a small asteroid. They aired comedy shows where a clueless captain lost Atlas in a parking orbit. In academy lectures, alien tacticians poked at old human plans and called them overbuilt and underthought. Human officers did not enjoy those slides, but they did not protest. It was easier to shrug and treat Atlas like an overdone story that no longer mattered. The thin corridor where it vanished stayed quiet. A few mining firms used it. A few long-haul runs passed near it. It did not even rate a major defense array, just a scatter of remote platforms and a single staffed relay. Mining Relay Theta 9. Theta 9 hung between two small, tired stars. Its main job was dull. Watch over drone miners chewing metal out of loose rock. Keep traffic logs. Sell basic services to the rare passing crewed ship. Forward background readings to a central database that no one checked unless a graph went wrong. Most days, the biggest event was a faulty drone calling home or a bored tech changing filters. On the day Attalus returned, the station lights were dimmed for sleep cycle. Only a skeleton crew stayed awake. The relay's central sensor net was quiet. No major heat blooms, no strange gravitic tides, no incoming jump flashes, just the usual wash of low radiation and the faint blue signals of distant, lawful beacons. Then the long-range mass detector chimed. It was a soft sound at first, like a polite knock, a slow alarm for object of interest. Technician J.R.O. Lin glanced up from a stale game on his console. The alert bar pulsed amber. He frowned, cleared his screen, and called up the raw feed. Range 3.1 AU, apparent mass. Wrong. Too heavy for an oar tug. Too cohesive for a drifting rock belt. Not big enough for a gas giant. The numbers sat in a strange middle place that made no sense for this empty corridor. He adjusted the filter. The mass reading sharpened. The object was growing closer. Its movement was precise, not random. A ship, then, but no flight plan for it sat in the local queue. He logged a routine query to traffic control and flagged it as unknown. Protocol said. That was enough. Protocol did not see the chill that walked up his spine. He switched views. The gravitic overlay drew a soft dip around the object's path, a neat, smooth line, weight cutting a calm furrow through thin space. Relay Central, this is Lynn on Sensor 2. We've got something large coming in. A long-range array. C. No ID. Got something large. Controller Hava Ruiz sounded half asleep. Take a snapshot. Tag it. Send it upstairs. Probably a bulk carrier off course. It's big. Hava. Define big. He sent the packet. Her channel went quiet as she pulled it up. The silence stretched 3 long heartbeats. Lynn, is that mass reading correct? I triple-checked. It's not no jump clear in. No broadcast ID. That profile, her voice trailed, then came back tight. Bring up optical, full spectrum. I'm calling command. At that distance, the relay's cameras could only catch a glint, a dark line against starlight, too sharp and straight to be natural. As the minutes ticked by, the line became a shape, long, angular, a hull that blocked stars in a precise pattern that matched no current registry. Not yet, back in the command bubble. Ruiz pulled old files. She did it by habit at first, then with rising focus. She dug past recent years, past the normal catalog, down into the dusty archive layer where half-forgotten tags lived. Her fingers paused over a file marked TBS Atlas Phenol Records. The model that bloomed on her screen was old. Its lines were heavy compared to modern designs, less graceful, more boxy. But it had the same basic outline as the shadow on her live feed. Mass values lined up. Length within 2%, ratios of hull width to drive span matched like a hand over its own print. No, she said aloud. To no one, that's impossible. She opened a secure channel to Sector Command. This is Controller Ruiz. Relay Theta 9. We have a large, unidentified ship on approach. Passive readings match archival records for human battleship designation TBS ATAS, requesting immediate confirmation and guidance. The reply did not come as slow as usual. Relay Theta 9. Sector Command here. Please repeat that designation. She repeated it. Stand by. She imagined link chains lighting up across human space. Sector Command to Central Fleet. Central Fleet to Earth Defense. Sleepy officers pulled out of beds. Old officers sitting up straighter the moment they heard the name. Achaz. On alien worlds, the news struck in different ways. In a Hillary observatory, a junior analyst saw the tag on a shared alert channel and laughed, thinking it was a prank. An old Hillary supervisor did not laugh. Its tentacles stilled. Increase priority. It said, "This is not a joke. Humans would not risk this for humor." On a sleek Psi Confederacy station, military tacticians watched in cool silence. Atlas was to them a symbol of human overreach. A symbol that had long been safe because it belonged to the past. Symbols returning from the dark without explanation have a way of cutting through habit. Back at Theta 9, the first clear images resolved. At normal magnification, Atlas was a long dark rod crossing the stars. At higher zoom, detail rolled into view, and everyone in the control room forgot to blink. The hull was black, but not the painted black of old warships. It was a deep, light-drinking shade that made it seem like the ship was a hole in space. Across that dark surface ran thin lines of soft golden light. They were not painted stripes. They looked like cracks in reality itself, filled from underneath by a slow, flowing glow. Some lines arced in patterns that matched old sensor access ports, gun deck seams, and armor plates. Others had no link to human design at all. They curved in patient, unfamiliar paths, crossing and joining in strange, almost organic arrangements. The ship's wake was worse. Old drives pushed reaction mass, or bent space in smooth, predicted curves. Atlas's new wake looked like a trail of cut glass. Behind its aft section, stars wavered, sliced, then rejoined. Thin lines of nothing skated across the background, then sealed up as if an invisible hand drew seams shut. The relay's instruments fought to describe it. The gravitic array logged small spikes and dips that did not match normal thrust. The quantum baseline sensor flashed warning codes it had no words for. Every system agreed on one thing. Something about Atlas's movement did not belong to standard physics. Local channels lit up as civilian mining crews checked in. Theta 9, this is Drone Cluster Lima 3. We're reading a power surge along our survey line. Is that you? Negative. Lima. 3. All station systems nominal. Recommend you keep distance from grid vector 12C. Large ship on approach. Registered because the last time something that size came through, it was a capital convoy and not registered. Repeat, not registered. Clear the vector. This is not a drill. On Earth, in a secure chamber deep under Colorado Springs, Admiral Rebecca Shaw watched the feed in grim silence. She had grown up with a framed illustration of Atlas over her father's desk. It had seemed unreal then, a story of another age. Now a live image floated above her table. Confirm visual cross-match. She ordered. An aide pulled up old renders and laid them over the current frame. The fit was close, but not perfect. New ridges along the central spine. The golden lines glowing where simple armor used to be. Armor used to be, it's Atlas, the aide said softly, or something that used to be Atla. Across alien space, High Marshal Valor's sign of the Kaith Dominion received the same composite. Its large, dark eyes narrowed. It comes back larger in presence than in mass. It said to its staff, "Look at the field distortion. This is not just a lost human gun platform." Back at Theta 9, Controller Ruiz watched Atlas slide closer with slow, steady grace. No broadcast ID, no standard greeting pulse, no response to the basic challenge ping she had sent. Just that huge silent shape moving in a straight line as if the station were a minor detail along a planned path. Range 2 AUS. 4 fear. Any sign of drive flare. Heat minimal. Hull temperature barely above background. But internal readings are complex. Complex how? The sensor tech did not have words ready, like layers. Like the ship is more than one thing sitting in the same place. Ruiz felt the small hairs on her arms stand up. She sent another priority burst to Human Central. Obedekt. Approaching. Probable Atlas. No response. To Allied channels. Large Unidefeed V-cell in Forgotten Corridor. Human signatures with uncanny mode modifications. Request coordinated observation. The galaxy had long since stopped caring about Atlas. Now suddenly, everyone did. Orders moved through space like a new kind of weather. In human fleet nodes, status boards turned red along the thin corridor. Reserve squadrons snapped from idle drills to live launch. In alien command spheres, planners gathered over floating charts, their colors cold and sharp. No one liked surprises near shared borders. The first calls were simple. Observe. Do not engage. Track. Then the old record spilled into the room, and the mood changed. This ship was declared lost 306 years ago, an aide told Admiral Shaw. Last known coordinates within 10 light years of current sighting. No confirmed debris field. Shaw's jaw tightened. Any sign this is a forgery? Projected profile? Negative, Admiral. Mass is real. Gravitic signature stable. We're picking up a human standard power baseline under something else. Something else. That phrase moved from mouth to mouth, language to language. In Keth space, High Marshal Valor's sign read the shared human briefing without outward reaction. The Keth had not feared Attilas in its time. They had respected it as a foolish show of strength, a thing that cost more than it earned, but a ship that did not die when it should have, and came back changed, touched a different concern. Signs stood before a wide hollow array where the thin corridor glowed. As a faint line, show me all assets within 20 light years. Icons bloomed. Patrol craft. Sleeper mines. Relay bars. Now overlay human deployments. More icons. More ships. Lines of influence crisscrossed the board. This will not stay a human problem, Sign said quietly. Signal the Coalition Council. We request emergency status. The Coalition Council was a loose thing. It woke only when danger seemed too large for one species to handle. The name Atlas, tied to unknown modification and unresponsive, was enough. Within hours, plans formed. They called it containment in the official documents, not attack, not blockade. A kind of moving fence of ships and sensors built ahead of Atula's path. The idea was simple on the surface. Form a wall. Demand answers. If the ship was friendly, it would talk. If not, there would at least be a layer of armor between it and the heart of shared space. High Marshal Scene was chosen to command the joint force. Not because Sign liked humans, but because Scene was good at thinking past pride. The Armada gathered in a broad arc that curved across the forgotten corridors mouth human destroyers. Human destroyers. Human destroyers. Keth landships. Hilary bulb craft with their glittering sensor webs. Needle frigates that bristled with silent weapons. Smaller allied craft hung between them like beads on an invisible line. Hundreds of ships, dozens of species. Lights blinking on and off as they aligned their positions by common coordinate. From a distance, it looked like a faint, tilted ring around nothing. Closer in, the ring hummed with power. Shields came online with low-level charges. Weapon capacitors filled. Patrol fighters took loose orbits along the front, watching the dark ahead. In the central command ship, a joint vessel named Accord, Sign watched Atlas marker creep toward the wall. Reports from Theta, 9 and other relays scrolled past. Object continues at constant speed, no course changes. No response to hails. Reality cut, wake intensity increased by 3%. Signal analysis shows unknown subharmonics in local space, rising with proximity. Send key to channel. Admiral Shaw, you see the same data? On Earth, Shaw's image appeared on a translucent slab. I see it, she said. Her voice was even, but her eyes were tired. We have people on that ship, or something wearing their skin. I will not sign off on a first strike unless it is absolutely clear we are under direct attack. Sin gave a slow nod. We do not seek war with your species today. But if this vessel cannot be reasoned with, we cannot permit it to pass. We agree on that, Shaw said. Our government has authorized joint control of this operation. You hold tactical command. I hold veto on weapons above threshold. 3. Accepted. Sign turned back toward the stars. Let us hope your legend remembers how to speak. Ahead, Atlas grew. To the crews on the wall, it did not feel like a legend. It felt like a solid shape beating up range markers. On the bridge of the human cruiser TNS Halcyon, Captain Imani Gray watched the thing approach through her forward display. It's bigger than the old specs, her tactical officer said. Or the field around it is. What do you mean? Look at the starfield bend, he said, tapping at his console. It's like there's a haze around it. Space isn't straight there. Gray zoomed in. Atlas's hull filled the screen. The black surface and golden lines were clearer now. Some of the glowing paths pulsed slow and steady, like a hidden heart. Others flickered in patterns that made no sense, as if they followed rules the human brain had never been asked to track. The wake behind the ship tore tiny slices in starlight that closed seconds later. The effect made some crew members nauseous to watch. "Status of Hales?" Gray asked. "Conscious comms," replied. "Standard human challenge. Coalition greeting protocol and direct tight beam in English, trade Keth, and 3 other tongues." No reply. On the cord, Sign studied a zoomed shot of the hull. One glowing line ran exactly where an old gun deck used to be. But the gun ports were gone. In their place, plain, smooth black, with the gold glow bleeding around invisible edges. "Open broadband," Sign ordered. Using a carefully agreed phrase set, delivered in multiple languages, Sign spoke. "Dessel Atlas, this is High Marshal Valer Sin of the Coalition Armada. You are on approach to a protected corridor. By shared law, you must identify, declare intent, and submit to inspection, reduce speed, and respond." The message filled the space between fleets. It bounced off buoys. It rolled past the dark hull of the returning ship. Nothing came back. Minutes passed. On some ships, nervous crew shared old jokes about Attila's early days. On others, silence held like a heavy blanket. People stared at screens, hands hovering over controls, waiting for the moment anything changed. Admiral Shaw stood in her own command room, hand flat on the table. "They're not answering," an aide said. "They heard," Shaw said. With that much sensor power, they heard. What if they can't reply? What if something blocks? Then it's already too late, Shaw said softly. On a cord, a comms eye officer spoke up. "Marshal, we must consider that the object may be an automated weapon or compromised beyond reason. If it will not speak, we move to the next step." Sin hated next steps that involved firing at something humanity once called its shield. But the Armada was here to guard. More than old human pride. "Very well," Sign said. "We escalate in measured order." They sent a targeted scan, high power, narrow beam, aimed at Atlas's bridge. Section. It bounced off like light off polished stone. Data returned, scrambled, no clear shape, no signs of life that fit known patterns. They sent a coded human authentication burst, an old fleet challenge from Ate, the Sown era. For a moment, some local readings flickered. No full response followed. At 60,000 kilometers, the fleet's weapons came to live ready. On Halcyon, Captain Gray felt the tension like a thickness in the air. Her weapons chief called out ranges and brackets with steady, trained rhythm. Target in strike window. All guns green, torpedo tubes ready. Awaiting orders. Gray's fingers brushed the arm of her chair. "Remember," she said to her bridge, "we do not shoot unless Coalition Command and Admiral Shaw both confirm. We are here to stand, not to start." A small frigate near the far left of the line did not share her calm. It was a young captain's first major assignment. The ship's name was Silent Way, a human-built escort with overclocked drives and a history of near misses. Its captain, Andres Carr, watched Atlas grow on his display and felt a hot, rising panic. He had family on a colony, not far beyond this corridor. They were sending worried messages. He could not answer. He watched the huge black shape ignore every hail, every warning. He watched its strange wake chew at space like a slow-moving saw. What if this thing goes through us? He muttered. What if it heads straight for... Captain, his first officer said. Orders are to hold. Do not. If it's hostile, we can't wait for it to fire first, Carr snapped. His heart pounded. Visions of his home burning filled his mind. Though no such image had ever been shown, fear made its own pictures. Coalition Command has protocols. Protocols get written after disasters, Carr said. Weapons, full power. Target that seam along its mid-hull. Maybe we can at least mark it. His officers hesitated. Then training and fear mixed, and they obeyed. Silent Way's main gun battery lit. A tight cluster of high-energy rounds flew across the gap, bright markers against the dark. On accord, Sinzades shouted, unauthorized fire from human escort Silent Way. Shaw's image sharpened on the command slab. Who gave that order? Sin's teeth clicked together. Cut his weapons, too late. The shots hit, or tried to. From every watching ship, the event looked wrong. The Brown sped toward Atlas, black hull. Just before impact, the golden lines along that section brightened. Space between the ship and the bullets seemed to fold, just slightly, like thin metal pressed by invisible fingers. The rounds did not explode. They simply slid. Their paths curved away in smooth arcs. Their energy bleeding into thin, harmless streaks of light that vanished into the dark. Sensors recorded no heat bloom, no shield flare, no debris. It was as if Atlas had refused to exist where the shots wanted it to be. Silence filled the shared channels. Then dozens of voices at once. What was that? Did it phase? Was that field manipulation? On Silent Way, Captain Carr stared, his mouth dry. Reload, he said hoarsely. Aim for the drive, his words cut off as his console froze. Control locks clamped down from above. Coalition Command had removed his firing rights. On accord, Sinus' voice was sharp for the first time. Silent Way, this is High Marshal Sin. You have violated direct orders. Stand down, or I will have your ship towed, and you relieved. Carr did not answer. His comms were overridden. In his gut, he felt he had just touched a natural law and found his weapons beneath it. Across the line, other captains calmed their crews. Ho, that was not an attack order. We do not follow panic. Attila's kept moving. If it had noticed the shots at all, it gave no sign. Sin watched the range tick down 50,000 kilometers. 40. We have learned something, a Hilary tactician said quietly. Conventional weapons do not act on its hull in normal ways. That is a gentle way to say they fail, a Xi officer replied. At 30,000 kilometers, some ships' short-range cameras could see more detail on the strange glow lines. Tiny symbols ran along some of them, not human writing, not any known language. Sharp, bent shapes that shifted when looked at from different angles, like they opposed simple focus. On Halcyon, a junior sensor tech covered his eyes. It hurts to stare at that pattern like it doesn't want to settle. Look away, Captain Gray said. You don't have to understand it. Just track it. When the distance closed to 20,000 kilometers, the wall of ships slid backward as one, thrusters burning in careful sync. They were not retreating so much as flexing, trying to maintain the same gap while Atlas kept coming. Last call, sign said into the broad band, Vessel Atlas. If you do not slow, you will pass within high-risk range of multiple armed fleets. We repeat our request. Declare intent. Respond, nothing. Then, just as the combined fleet edged into full crisis mode, something changed. The golden lines along Atta's hull brightened in waves, moving from bow to stern, like a slow scanning light. The strange wake behind the ship smoothed. For a brief second, the cuts in starlight stopped closing. Sensors across the Armada screamed with alerts. Field intensity rising. Unknown energy types. Signal noise spiking. On Halcyon's bridge, every screen filled with strange stacked graphs, their lines braiding up and down in patterns that did not match any known code. Then everything went quiet, not dead, not shut off. Just quiet. Static fell away. Every channel cleared. In that moment of sharp, clear stillness, a voice spoke. It did not come from a narrow beam or a single band. It slid into every open receiver at once. Human comms, Keth Hale's, civilian music channels stuck on in mess halls, helmets on patrol fighters, old, forgotten backup speakers in storage holes. The voice was human, tired, worn down by long use. It carried the rough tone of someone who had shouted themselves hoarse at some earlier time and never fully healed. This is Captain Mara Ilian of the Terran battleship Attas. It said, we are not hostile. We are not here to break your lines. On a chord, Sin froze. Admiral Shaw's hand clamped down on the edge of her console. Mara Ilian should have been dead centuries ago. The voice continued. We hear your weapons. We felt your shots. They are small against what we carry now, but that is not your fault. You built them for the wrong kind of war. Somewhere on a Halari vessel, a young crew member muttered, What is the right kind? Mara's breath scratched across the link. It sounded like someone speaking from far away, through many layers of something thick. We were taken, the voice said, beyond your maps, beyond mine. We did not go by choice. We were pulled, we were held. We learned to move differently, or we would have ended. The strange golden lines on Atlas's hull brightened in time with the words, like a heartbeat seen through skin. What you see on us is not your doing, Mara went on. It is a gift is the wrong word, a load, a burden, power tuned for something else. We came back carrying tools to hold doors closed. Doors closed, not to open new battles. On Halcyon, Captain Gray felt her throat go dry. Doors? She said softly. What doors? Mara seemed to hear the thought, though no question had been sent. Yet, there are places where space folds into itself. The voice said, not like your drives. Deeper, older. We have been on the edge of those places. We have seen what tries to come through when the crack widens. Sin cut in on a priority channel. Captain Elian, it said. Formal even now. If that is truly you, prove it. Send your last known command level key from the day Atlas was declared missing. There was a pause. High Marshal Scene, Mara said. The Keth did not have that rank back then. Time has been busy without me. A string of numbers and tones followed. Old encryption, long dead. On Earth, Admiral Shaw's aides stared as their deepest archive systems perked up. Admiral, an analyst said, voice shaking, that key matches the lock in the Atlas sealed file. No one has used it since the day they disappeared, on accord, since expression did not change, but its hands folded behind its back with slow care. Very well, it said. We accept for now that you are who you claim, but your ship carries unknown fields. You ignore law. You do not answer hails until now. You must submit to inspection, or we cannot let you pass. Mara laughed once. It was not a pleasant sound. You cannot inspect this, she said quietly. The power we carry is meant for the places outside, for the doors that should never open. If we let you touch it, you would not stay what you are. Her tone turned gentle, somehow more tired than before. We did not fight our way back here to start a war. We came close enough to say a thing we hope you hear. Your weapons are pointed sideways. You aim at each other. You should be aiming at the cracks. In control rooms, on bridge decks, in tiny observation pods, people and aliens listened, minds racing. High Marshal Sin spoke carefully. If it is that great, then you are a threat even if you choose not to be. Power leaks. People change. How do we trust a ship that refuses to be seen inside? Mara's answer came slow. You cannot. Not fully, she said. You should. We fear ourselves. We are not the same crew that left. The golden lines along the hull dimmed slightly, as if in agreement. But hear this, Mara said. Nothing we carry was made to win your skirmishes. It was made to push back against doors when they start to open, to burn what tries to step through, to hold the line at the edge of what you call real. For a heartbeat, an image pushed across the link. Not clear, not clean, just a sense. A dark surface bending, a hole starting to gape, something on the far side pressing close, like fingers against thin ice. Then it was gone. Many listeners did not even know they had seen it. They only felt a sudden chill, a sense that under their feet, the ground of normal space was thinner than they thought. Mara took a breath. We came back because the strain on those doors is changing, she said. We feel it every time we move. The outside presses harder now. We do not know why. We only know we cannot hold forever. Not alone. Her voice softened. You wanted us as a shield against other species. As a sign you were big enough to matter. That was a small dream. Out beyond your maps, there are things that do not care what flag you fly. They care only that there is a crack they can fit through. On Earth, in Colorado Springs, Admiral Shaw closed her eyes for a moment. All the old arguments about defense budgets and rival empires felt small next to that picture. High Marshal Sin Seas whispered suggestions. Detain, board, disable drives, capture for study, use. Fear and opportunity tangled in their words. Sign raised a hand for silence. Captain Alien, it said, if what you say is true, then we must know more. Share your data. Let our scientists study this outside. If there are doors, we will build locks together. Maris' laugh was softer this time, almost fond. You are still so sure everything can be built and fixed, she said. I remember that. I loved that. I miss that. Her tone turned regretful. These doors are not like your airlocks. They are parts of what space is. They widen when minds poke at them too hard. Knowledge itself is a tool they use. If we hand you our full maps, we make more cracks. Shaw leaned forward, her voice cutting into the shared channel. Mara, this is Admiral Rebecca Shaw, Terran Defense. You served under my grandfather. He used to tell me stories about your stubbornness. A pause. Rebecca, Mara said softly. He had a photo of you on his desk. You drew rockets on the back of important memos. Shaw's throat tightened. Yeah, that was me. Listen, we believe you about the doors. But the people behind me will not all believe. They see a ship that cannot be hurt by their guns. They see a threat. Help me help you. Give me something I can show them that proves you are really here to hold back danger, not bring it. Mara went quiet. Atlas' strange wake smoothed again. The golden lines pulsed like a slow countdown. We can show you what happens when a door starts to open. Mara said, at last, but only a hint. Only in a way that does not teach you how to open it more. Sima's hands tightened behind its back. Careful, it murmured, not sure if it spoke to Mara or to the universe itself. Brace, Mara said. This may feel wrong. Without visible motion, without weapon flares or drive surges. Atlas reached out, not at the fleet, at space itself, far off to the side of the Armada, at a point that had been empty a heartbeat before. Light bent. Sensors shrieked. A thin, black line cut into the starfield, growing into a jagged oval. Around it, radiation spiked in twisted, impossible waves. People on nearby ships felt a pressure in their heads, a faint sense of falling sideways. Then, Atalas's golden lines flared white. A pulse moved from its hull. Silent and bright, it struck the dark oval. For a second, the air in every listening room tasted like metal. The oval shrank. The pressure eased. The black line crumpled in on itself, like paper set on fire from all directions at once. And then there was only normal starlight again. The event lasted less than 3 seconds. When it ended, a dozen ships reported minor failures in their more exotic sensors. Nothing burned. No hulls cracked. But on every mind that had watched, a new idea settled. Space could do that, and something knew how to stop it. Mara's voice came back, sounding older than before. "That was small," she said. "A test. A fault line forming on its own, where the outside taps at the shell. We sealed it. That is what our guns are for now. That is what this power wants to do." She drew in a rough breath. "Every time we do that, we carry more of the outside's mark. We are not sure how long we can stay. Us." Her words floated there, inside the silent ring of ships. High Marshal Scene looked at the point where the dark oval had been. Its mind, trained to tactics and weights and odds, tried to fold this new shape into its plans. "It is not just a ship," Sin said at last, almost to itself. "It is a boundary, a thing standing between what we call real and something else." On Earth, Admiral Shaw watched the same space and thought of her childhood rockets on old paper. How small they were. How brave they had felt. "Captain Yulayan," she said, "we hear you, all of us. The question now is not just what you can do. It is what we are willing to know." Atlas held its slow course, its golden seams glowing like veins of contained storm, its silent engines cutting paths through space that did not quite heal right. Between the Armada and the returning legend, the thin corridor felt less empty than it ever had. It was this. A tired human voice carried across every channel, saying that the guns of the largest warship humans ever built were now aimed at doors no one had known existed, and somewhere in the hidden layers of its signal, patterns twisted and braided in ways that only careful eyes like Dr. Maya Caldwell's would soon start to see. Admiral Rebecca Shaw sat alone for a moment after the link with Atlas ended. The command room under Colorado Springs hummed quietly around her. Hollow screens floated in the air, frozen on the last frame of the encounter. Atos hanging in space, its hull lined with dim gold. The dark oval it had closed already. Gone. Staff watched her, waiting. She knew what most of them wanted to hear. Target it, board it, take what it has. She also knew what the rest of the galaxy would think if humans reached for that too fast. Shaw took a slow breath and straightened. "Record," she said. "Directive to all human forces regarding the vessel, Atla." A red icon lit above her table. "Recording. Effective immediately." Shaw said. Atlas is to be treated as a returning human asset under extreme quarantine. We recognize Captain Mara Ailian and crew as human personnel, but we acknowledge that their ship now contains unknown systems and influences. She looked around at the faces in the room. No vessel is to approach within 10,000 kilometers without direct authorization from my office. She went on. No attempt will be made to cut into or board Atlas. No attempt will be made to copy or tamper with its main core, hull lines, or drive structure. An aide frowned. Admiral, if we don't at least try to... She raised a hand. I am not saying never, Shaw said. I am saying not now. Not in front of a nervous armada made of allies who already fear that we built this thing on purpose. She tapped a control. A small map of known human space appeared with colored borders for other species' claims. A faint red circle marked the area around the thin corridor. Understand the balance, Shaw said. Our allies see a human ship come back from nowhere with power that breaks their weapons, like toys. If they think we are trying to keep this power for ourselves, what do you think happens? Sanctions, said an intelligence officer. Blockades, said another. Joint strike, someone else muttered. Shaw nodded. Maybe more, she said. What we want does not matter as much as what they think we want. So we move slow. We honor the ship and crew, but we set hard limits around what we try to learn. The red icons stopped blinking. Directive sent, Admiral, asked a young staffer. Isn't that wasting a chance? What if Atlas has the key to defending all of us? Shaw stared at the image of the sealed dark oval Atlas had burned shut, or the key to opening those doors, she said quietly. We do not know which yet. She turned to the main room. Next step, she said, louder. We study the only safe thing we have right now, the signal they sent us. Heads nodded, some with relief, some with hunger. Route all copies of Atalas's broadcast and telemetry to Analysis Group 7, Shaw ordered. And give full access to Dr. Says, Maya Caldwell. A few people traded glances. Caldwell? Someone asked. The harmonic specialist? Yes. Not easy. Shaw's mouth twitched in the ghost of a smile. We don't need easy, she said. We need accurate. Half a world away, in an older part of Colorado Springs, where the concrete still showed cracks from past quakes. Dr. Ty Stars. Dr. Creek's doctor, Maya Caldwell, sat in a dark lab, staring at a forest of lines on her main screen. Her office was not impressive. 2 long desks, 6 monitors, a jury-rigged rack of signal processors that hummed like a polite storm. Coffee stains on half the near paper. A faded poster of a radio telescope on the wall. Maya herself looked as tired as her room, hair pulled back, dark circles under sharp eyes, sweater 2 days past, fresh on her screen. 8 TASS's broadcast rolled past in colors and shapes instead of words. Her assistant, a tall grad student named Nitish, leaned in the doorway with a cup of tea. You've been staring at that for 12 hours, he said. At some point, your brain will file a work complaint. Maya did not look away from the data. Did you hear her voice? She asked. Captain Ilian. Yeah, hard to miss. The whole city heard it. She said the power they carry is tuned to hold doors closed. Maya said softly, "Look here." She tapped a section of the display. The raw audio looked like a band of waves, stacked by frequency. On top of that, extra lines showed faint shifts in the signal's fine structure. Normal speech has simple harmonics, Maya said. You clap your hands, you get a main peak and some neat side peaks. Human comm gear adds some noise. Nothing fancy. She zoomed in. The lines thickened. This, she said, this is not simple. Nightish squint. It's just a thick line, he said. Okay, maybe a bit fuzzy. That fuzz is structure, Maya said. Look, she pressed a key. The display rotated into a three-dimensional view. The line became a twisting shape, with tiny ridges running along it. Another button, another shift, and color bands painted across the ridges. Now even Nightish's eyes widened. That's 2 patterns, he said. Maybe 3? 2 for sure, Maya said. Maybe a third riding lower at the noise floor. Your ears heard one message. Maris voice, plain speech. But under that, inside the same carrier, something else is riding. A second protocol, maybe more. A hidden code? Nightish asked. Like steganography. Sort of, Maya said. But steganography tries to hide. This doesn't quite hide. It's like it doesn't care if we notice it, because we can't read it without changing what it is. He made a face. That sounds like the kind of sentence that keeps people awake at night. Welcome to my last 12 hours, Maya said. She pulled up another file. Telemetry from the moment Alice had burned the dark oval shut, radiation spikes, field readings, strange little blips from instruments that were not supposed to measure whatever that was. Watch this, she said. She overlaid the audio harmonics and the field readings, the extra structure in Maris' voice, lined up with tiny jumps in local space. See? Maya said. The hidden pattern moves with the way the ship bends reality. It's not just a code. It's connected. It's like the act of speaking their message also tugs at the stuff that lets them cut and sew space. Nightish stared. Are you saying the message itself bends space? He asked. Him saying the message and the bending are 2 sides of the same act, Maya said. They come together. You can't have one without the other anymore. She rubbed her eyes. Imagine you build a new kind of language, she said slowly. Every word you say not only carries meaning, but also pushes on the shape of the world. Just a tiny bit. If someone learns that language wrong, they might push in the wrong way. Nightish swallowed. So if we try to copy this protocol, we might teach our systems to move in a pattern that opens cracks, Maya said. Or we might mark them in some way the outside can see. Or maybe nothing happens and just scared. She gave a short, humorless laugh. But Admiral Shaw asked me to find out, Maya said. So I have to look. She pulled up more windows, short-range telemetry from ships around Atlas. Background hum in the corridor before and after the test. Bits of data from old black projects she had clearance to see, but had never cared about. This time she saw something that made her sit straighter. In a folder marked OBSO deep field, a file held an old experiment. A forgotten group had once tried to make faster, denser signals by twisting the fine structure of radio waves in complex ways. They had called it braided encoding. The attempt had failed. The signals had decayed too fast over distance. The project was shelved. Maya lined the old test pattern up with Atlas extra structure. Not the same, but close, too close to be a simple accident. Who had access to this? She asked, more to herself than to Nitish. He checked his pad. Black Program Cluster 9, he said. Shut down 80 years ago. No public papers. Maya's fingers tapped a restless pattern against the desk. Some human project tried to make better signals by twisting harmonics, she said. Then Atlas disappears. Then it comes back with a harmonic pattern that looks like a grown-up version of the same idea, but tied into reality itself. You think our old work helped shape what it became? Nitish asked. I think whatever grabbed Alas found something familiar to hold on to. Maya said quietly, maybe the ship already had early braided encoders buried in its system. Maybe the outside learned our pattern through them. She did not say the other thought out loud, or the pattern learned the outside. Before she could chase that worry further, her console chimed. Caldwell, she said. Admiral Shaw's face appeared. On the center screen, Dr. Shaw said, Tell me something I can use. Maya nodded once. Short version, she said. Atlas's message isn't just voice. There's a second pattern writing inside their signal. It's not human code. It moves with their strange field effects. It may be part of how they grip and seal those doors. Can we read it? Shaw asked. Not safely, Maya said. Not yet. To really decode it, we'd have to teach our hardware to behave like theirs. That might pull us into the same rule set they now live in. Shaw's eyes narrowed. Rule set? The physics their ship follows now, Maya said. They said they learned to move differently or end. I think that's literal. Their systems now sit halfway between our space and whatever holds those cracks. Their signal shows that. Shaw was quiet for a beat. Is there risk just from listening? She asked. Passive reception seems safe, Maya said. We can see the pattern, but we're not copying it into our systems in full. The big risk comes if we try to build hardware that acts on it, or if we let it infect our protocols. Or if we let it infect our protocols. Explain infect, Shaw said. Maya pulled up a small diagram. You know how a computer virus moves with data packets? She said. You send a file, the code rides inside, and when it lands in a system that can run it, it changes that system. Shaw nodded. Now imagine a deeper kind of virus, Maya said. Not just code, a pattern of timing and wave shape. If your radio gear copies that pattern, exactly when it talks, its basic behavior shifts. It starts to favor certain ways of tuning the world. That's what I think could happen here. A protocol infection. Shaw breathed out slowly. So if we start using Athla's hidden pattern, even for tests, our network might change in ways we don't see at first. She said. Yes, Maya said. Our ships might start to lean toward the outside. Just a little. Our sensors might learn to see doors, or help open them by looking too hard. Shaw's face hardened. Then we do not copy it, she said. Not now, not under rushed orders, not under any field commander who thinks winning the next battle is worth the risk of breaking the universe. She looked straight at Maya. I trust you to say no, Shaw said. Even if some general tries to lean on you, even if they wave promotion at you. You tell them, the Admiral said. This pattern is quarantined. Maya blinked. Admiral, a lot of people will want to study this, she said. People above both of us, on the civilian side. They'll say we're holding back humanity. Shaw's gaze did not move. Then they can come talk to me. Until they overrule me in full view of every Allied recorder. This stands. No one builds hardware based on Achilles's internal protocol without my written sign-off and coalition oversight. Maya nodded, the tightness in her chest easing a little. He'll put that in my report, she said. Good, Shaw said. Keep looking, Doctor, but stay on the safe side of the line. The screen went dark. Nitish let out a breath he had been holding. That was a lot. He said, Do you believe her, that she can hold the line? Maya watched the dancing lines on her screen. She understands fear, Maya said. That helps. Fear is not always our enemy. On the other side of the planet, in a secure lab that did not appear on any public map, Lena Voss stared at a different set of images. She was in her 40s with short hair, steady hands, and the neat, watchful posture of someone who had spent half a life inside classified projects. The room around her was sharp and bright, white walls, clean benches, no outside windows, only one door with 3 separate locks. On the central holotable, a 3D model of Atlas turned slowly. Old plans showed it as it had left port centuries ago. Clean armor plates, familiar drive cones, gun decks lined with numbered ports. New scans from the forgotten corridor showed it as it was now. Lena could flip between them with a small hand motion. Old, new. Old, new. On new, the golden lines cut through armor and decks in patterns that made the hair at the back of her neck rise. A security officer stood nearby, arms folded. Director Voss. He said, We didn't expect you this fast. Lena did not look at him. You flagged my name, she said. You think I didn't help design part of the original Atlas. You were just a junior engineer then, he said. But your later work built on Lena said. On what we learned from losing it? Show me the subsystem overlays. He tapped a control. Colored shapes appeared inside the spinning model, each marking a different system. Drive, power, weapons, life support, data core. Lena watched how the golden lines ran through them. They said the ship behaves like a sealed doorframe. The officer said, "That's the phrase from Dr. Caldwell's early note. What do you think that means?" Lena chewed her inner lip. "A door frame is a support around a gap," she said. "You can close the door, but the frame stays. It marks where a hole can be." She zoomed in on the main core. "Look here," she said. The old design showed a dense ball of reactors and field generators, wrapped in heavy shielding. It was meant to power big guns and big drives. Nothing more. The new scan showed that same central mass, but wrapped again in something else. Thin, curved shapes, extra layers that did not match human materials. Golden lines crossing them like veins around a heart. "It's like someone picked up our core and built a bracket around it," Lena said quietly. "A frame that links it to..." Wherever they went, the officer shifted. "You think the outside still touches the ship?" he said. "I think the ship never fully came back," Lena said. "Part of it still sits in that other place. Those golden lines carry that link. They look like memory of the outside, burned into matter." She pulled up data from a past life. Old black programs she had helped run. Projects that had used words like edge physics, phase taps, borrowed vacuum. "We tried to make our own door frames years ago," she said. "Small ones, just to peek, just to see if there was free energy on the other side. We failed and then stopped," the officer said. "And then we stopped," Lena said. "Sometimes I wonder," he hesitated. "Director," he said, off the record, "did we have any active edge projects when Attila disappeared?" Lena did not answer it once. In her memory, briefing rooms lit by 2 bright lights, senior officers with careful smiles, polite talk about field experiments near low traffic zones, her own name on some of the papers, younger then, proud to be part of something big. "We were playing near the thin corridor," she said at last, "testing ways to bend space more cheaply. We did not think we could cause what happened to a loss." Happened. It was too far. Our tools were too small. She met his eyes. "But I have asked myself, at night, if we made a crack," she said. "A hairline split, something that the outside had been waiting for." "Why didn't you push for a full review?" he asked. She gave a tired half smile. "Because no one wanted to admit we might have poked a hole in the universe," she said. "And because I was scared they would ask me to do it again. This time on purpose." She turned back to the model, the golden lines, she said. "They match some of our old phase field maps. Twisted, grown, but familiar. It's like the outside took our early tools and finished them in its own image. Do you think Atlas is safe to be near?" the officer asked. Lena watched a golden line that ran through the crew quarters. Safe? She repeated. Nothing about this is safe. Her voice softened. But I don't think Mara is lying, she said. She always cared more about her crew than her ship. If she says this power is meant to hold back doors, I believe that's what she wants it to do. What it wants, the officer said quietly, looking at the glowing veins. May be different. Lena did not disagree. She zoomed in on a small section where a golden line passed through an old sensor bay. "I'll tell Shaw this," Lena said. "Atlas is not just a ship that went out and came back with upgrades. It is a boundary object now. Part here, part somewhere else. Studying it is like touching the edge of a very deep pool. You might just feel cold water, or something might grab your hand. And if command orders a full study anyway?" the officer asked. Lena thought of bright labs, eager younger engineers, the rush of being first to see a new thing. She also thought of the thin crack in space Atlas had sealed, and the faint, wrong pressure in her own head when she watched the recording. "I will write every risk in clear words," she said. "I will say that some knowledge cannot be unhappened. I will say that curiosity has a cost." She gave a short, humorless laugh. And then she said, "They will say that standing still also has a cost, that if there are doors out there, we can't afford not to understand them." The officer looked at her. "What will you do then?" he asked. Lena watched the spinning model of Atlas, the golden lines bright against the black. "I don't know," she said quietly. "Part of me wants to run every test I can think of. The other part wants to order this file erased from every drive and never say Atlas again." She shook her head. "Either way," she said, "we are past the point of comfort. The universe has shown us its deeper layer. Even if Atlas flew away right now and never came back, we would still know that doors exist." She touched the hollow, stopping the ship's rotation. The golden lines formed a rough ring around the core, like a brace. "And now," she said, almost to herself, "we have to decide how much more we really want to know." Back in her cramped lab, Dr. Maya Caldwell wrote the last lines of her first report. She chose each word with care. Conclusion. She typed, "Atlas communications contain a second, non-human protocol bound to its reality-altering field effects. Attempting to copy or implement this protocol in standard Terran or Coalition hardware risks uncontrolled change in those systems' baseline behavior. This may increase contact with, or exposure to, the extra-physical region Atlas refers to as outside." She paused, then added, "Recommendation: treat Atlas internal protocol as a biohazard of information. Limit study to passive observation on isolated, air-gapped equipment with no external network links. Do not attempt to generate or transmit signals using the observed pattern without joint approval." At the highest level, she sent the report. Then, alone in the dim hum of her equipment, she scrolled back to the raw recording. Mara's tired voice filled the room again. "We are not the same crew that left." Maya watched the fine structure ride under the words. a hidden, twisting pattern that seemed almost alive. "Are you a language?" she asked. The lines on the screen. A tool? A scar? The lines did not answer. In the quiet, Maya felt a thin line of fear, sharp and clear. Not fear of Atlas destroying fleets. That was a simple story. This fear was of something slower. This fear was of something slower. A process that slipped in at the level of numbers and rules. A pattern that could turn smart systems into doorframes without anyone noticing until it was too late. She rubbed her eyes and forced herself to stand. Go home, she told herself. Sleep. You'll think clearer in the morning. As she turned off most of the lights, one small monitor stayed on, showing the corridor where Atlas still drifted, facing a wall of guns and doubt. The ship's golden lines pulsed slowly, like the breathing of something that had come back from a place too deep for charts. Across human space and in alien council halls, like Lyric Gate, people whose job was to keep others safe tried to decide how to live with that sight. Was Atlas a shield, a trap, or both? No one could yet say. But in the hidden spaces of its signal and in the glowing veins along its hull, something from beyond the map watched back, patient and silent, as if waiting to see which doors curiosity would open next. Atlas slowed, not with a showy burn or a big flare, but with the same strange calm it had shown from the start. Its wake, the reality-cut trail that sliced and sewed the stars, thinned as the huge ship eased down at the very edge of human-marked space. Around it, the Coalition Armada held position. They had not let the wall break. Human destroyers, Keflansa ships, Helari sensor bulbs, Psi needles. Their formation curved like a giant question mark between Atos and the bright tangle of known trade routes beyond. Closer in, some ships had drifted forward a little, as far as their admirals dared. Farther back, more cautious captains had quietly increased their distance. No one wanted to be too close if the strange golden lines on Atlas's hull began to flare again. High Marshal Valor Sin stood on the command deck of Accord and stared at the big central holo. Ataz hung there, a black shape rimmed in dim gold, just outside the clear border that marked human-controlled systems. Behind that border waited busy worlds, crowded stations, and a million quiet lives that did not yet understand how thin the universe might be. Atlas velocity near zero relative to our frame, a Keth officer answered. Range holding, no further attempts to open localized faults in space. Signal traffic. Low. Low? Sign asked. Short, directed pulses to human command only. The officer said, no more wideband broadcasts. Sign nodded once. Then the storm moves from the gun decks to the meeting rooms, it said. As usual, on Earth storms had already started. In New Geneva, in Old Beijing, in the long hall under Colorado Springs. Urgent meetings rolled one after another. On the big wall display in Colorado Springs, Atlas's last known position blinked at the edge of a bright human border. Admiral Rebecca Shaw watched a live feed from the Armada, then turned to the room. "We have 3 main views on the table," she said. "Summarize them." An aide brought up 3 simple phrases. "Shield, trap. Group A says Atlas is what Mara claims," the aide said. "A shield against doors in reality. A rare gift. We should bring it in under guard, study it slowly, and work with the crew to prepare for more of those cracks." "Group B?" Shaw asked. "Group B says it's a trap." The aide went on. "Either an outside tool wearing a human face, or a future threat we're letting grow. They say we should force a task to power down, board it, and if that fails, find a way to destroy it now while we still have more ships." Murmurs passed through the room. "Group C?" Shaw asked. "Group C says we cannot know yet," the aide said. "That any strong move, pulling a task closer, or trying to break it, will scare our allies or push the crew into acting out of fear. They suggest holding position at the edge and talking more, with clear limits." Shaw looked around. "We are not voting tonight," she said, "but I want everyone to understand the pull between these ideas. Whatever we do, the rest of the galaxy is watching. And so is Atos." At the back of the room, a low-level staffer named Daniel Reyes scribbled notes. His job was not to pick a path. His job was to explain it to billions of people without starting panic. He listened carefully as arguments rolled back and forth over his head. "If we let that ship leave, we may never see it again," said a general. "We give up our best chance to understand the outside. If we drag it closer," said a diplomat, "we confirm every alien fear that we planned this from the start. They already joke that humans built Atlas as a godship. Now that joke will turn bitter. Our people are not a joke," another voice snapped. "No," Shaw said firmly. "But their fear is real, and so is ours." She tapped the display. It shifted to show a side view of the thin corridor and the great black shape waiting at its mouth. "Atas has already shown us that doors exist," she said. "We cannot erase that. The choice now is what story we tell ourselves about that fact. Far above Earth, on the joint alien station called Lyric Gate, the story sounded different. Lyric Gate was a long ring of silver and blue that turned gently above a quiet red star. It held gardens, markets, courtrooms, and a great hall of records where archivist Thessa Ryn spent most of her life. Thessa's body was small and thin, with 4 long fingers on each hand, and faint spots around large, dark eyes. Her people were not strong in battle, but they were very good at keeping track of what others tried to forget. On her table, a slow old hollow spun in place. It showed an outline of something that looked a little like Atlas, a long hull marked with bright lines, surrounded by scrawled symbols in a language no one now spoke. A younger assistant watched with her. "That's from the Forbidden Tier," the assistant said quietly. "Record set Zeta Black. Incidents marked not for public teaching." "Yes," Thessa said. Her voice was soft but clear. "It is an image from 3,000 years ago, from before humans learned to split atoms." before my people had current names. She tapped the old image. The bright lines around the hull glowed slightly. This ship was called a warden by those who feared it, Thessa said. It too claimed to stand between our world and something deeper. It, too, was said to carry power that did not belong to normal ships. The assistant frowned. What happened to it? They asked. Thessa blinked slowly. It vanished, she said, near a quiet region. After a time, strange events began to occur near that region. After a time, strange events began to occur near that region. Missing vessels. Odd readings, our records say. Doors opened. The assistant swallowed. Like the one Allah's burned shut, they asked. Similar, Thessa said. Though the shapes and numbers differ. The pattern is what matters. A large, strange ship returns, or appears, claims to guard. Then is lost. Then, later, the cracks increase. She flipped to another record. A different era, different names. A station, not a ship, ringed in light, described as a seal against the deep, also gone. Each time the story is the same, Thessa said. Something from outside attaches to our tools. It promises to stand as a gate. Over long stretches of time, the line between gate and opening blurs. The assistant watched the plot of Atlas holding near the edge of human space. Do we tell them? They asked. The humans? Thessa was silent for a moment. If we tell them only that, they will say we doom them with old ghost stories, she said. If we say nothing, we leave them blind. She closed the old records with a firm hand. We share the patterns, she said. We tell them that every other boundary object we know of ended with more cracks, not fewer. We let them face that truth. Minutes later, on a cord, a fresh packet reached High Marshal Scene. It carried Lyric Gate's seal, sign read. Thessa Wren's summary twice. Then it opened a secure link to Admiral Shaw. Admiral Sin said when her face appeared, "Our archivists have matched Atta's tales to old incidents." Shaw's eyes narrowed. And Sign brought up the images Thessa had sent. The old warden ship. The ring station. Charts of increasing anomalies after each one's loss. Each time, a structure linked to the outside appears. Sign said, each time it claims to guard us. Each time it vanishes, and each time after a pause, the universe grows less quiet, more thin. Shaw listened without speaking. You know what some on my council say, Scene went on, that its very presence near your border is a slow acid on reality, that we should force it farther away or see it destroyed. What do you say? Shaw asked. Sign looked at the glowing lines on the model. I say patterns warn, but they do not always bind, it said. I also say that your Captain Ilian speaks with a kind of fear I would not expect from a pure weapon. She knows she is dangerous. That gives me pause. Shaw's gaze slid to her own data, where Maya Caldwell's report sat in quiet red. "We are not ready for a war with our own legend," she said, "and if Atlas really is holding some doors closed, killing it may open them faster." "So we are back to talking," Shaw said. "To limits, to trust, or at least a careful lack of panic." On the shared screen between them, Atlas floated, a dark comma at the edge of a sentence no one knew how to finish. On Earth, Daniel Reyes held his first major briefing in front of a global feed. He stood behind a simple podium. No flashy backdrop, just a plain blue wall with the seal of the Terran Assembly. He looked calm. That calm was half training, half stubborn choice. Citizens of Earth and all settled worlds, he began, reading only lightly from the text in front of him. By now, most of you have heard that the long-lost battleship Atlas has returned to the edge of human space. A small screen above his head showed a still image. Atlas, from the Armada's view, golden lines glowing faintly. "You have seen jokes from our neighbors about the ghost hero come home," Daniel said. "You have heard wild rumors about doors in space, about the outside. I am here to tell you what is known, what is not, and what we are doing." He lifted his eyes to the main camera. First he said, "Atlas did return. It is under watch by a joint human and alien force. The ship has not fired on us except in a controlled test against a dangerous fault in space. It has not entered our inner systems." He clicked to a simple map with a red circle marking Atlas's location. "Second," Daniel went on, "the people on Atlas say they were taken to a place beyond our current science. They say they came back carrying power designed to hold back things that try to enter our space through weak spots. We have seen a small part of that at work. We have also seen that the same power makes our weapons useless against them in normal ways." He let that sit for a beat. "Third," he said, "we are not rushing to copy what Atlas has. Our best scientists advise that its new systems are tied so closely to that outside place that using them without full care could draw us closer to it in ways we don't understand. We are not prepared to risk that with the lives of trillions." He knew some in his audience would call that cowardice. Others would call it wisdom. He tried to speak for both. "So here is where we stand," Daniel said. "We will talk to Achula. We will listen. We will ask hard questions. We will work with our allies, not against them. And we will remember that fear can make smart people do foolish things." He looked straight into the lens. "Atlas is not our savior," he said. "It is not our doom. It is a sign that the universe is wider and less empty than we thought. We will meet that fact with open eyes, not with blind panic or blind faith. In homes, on ships, in crowded station bars, people watched him. Some nodded with relief. But for a little while, the worst rumors lost some of their bite. Back on Lyric Gate, in the Hall of Records, archivist Fesserin watched the same briefing on a small side screen. "Calm words," her assistant said. "Will they be enough?" "Words are never enough," Fessa said. "But they are better than swords alone." Her own report to the coalition had ended with a simple warning: do not let hope or fear turn Atlas into a symbol larger than what it is. Treat it as a dangerous tool and a wounded ally. Remember that doors have two sides. Out at the edge on Accord, High Marshal Sin opened a final wideband channel. This is Sin, it said. We have heard your claims. We have seen a small part of what you can do. Many here still fear you. Many would still prefer to see your hull in pieces. The hologram of Atlas hung before it. Silent, but we will not fire today. Sin went on. Not while you hold position outside our inner lines, and not while you share what you can of the outside's changes in ways that do not push us closer to it. A pause. Do you accept this, uneasy peace? Sign asked. For a moment, nothing came back. Then the golden lines along Atlas' hull brightened just a little. Mara Ilian's voice came through, grainy but clear. Hi, Marshal, she said. You speak for many. I respect that. We did not come back to die in a hail of our own people's fire. She took a rough breath. We accept your watch, she said. We accept your fear. We accept that you will study every move we make for signs of turning into a trap. That is fair. Sin relaxed a fraction. Then tell us your intent, it said. Now that you sit at our border, what do you plan to do? Mara was quiet for a long moment. When we first cut free from the outside's grip, our first thought was to run, she said, to flee to a place with fewer minds, to spare you the risk of being too near our mark. Her voice softened. But we missed home, she said. We missed gravity. We knew light, we knew faces shaped like ours. So we came back, not to duck, to stand near, to warn, and then to leave again. Leave, Sign asked. Yes, Mara said. The strain on the doors is rising. We can feel it in our bones. If we stay here, close to your worlds, every time we act to hold a crack shut, we will leak more of that other place into your sky. She sounded tired. We chose to come close enough that you could see us, hear us, and know a little of what waits beyond your neat maps, she said. We chose not to cross into your heart, not to become your pet monster or your final gun. Her voice steadied. After this, we will turn away, she said. We will go back into the quiet corridors, into the thin places, and we will keep holding as long as we can. If we fall, you will see the doors open more often. Maybe you will be ready by then. Maybe not. On Halcyon's bridge, Captain Imani Gray listened, jaw tight, leaving us with a story and a problem, she said under her breath. On Accord, Sign gave a slow nod. Some on this side will say you flee justice, it said. Others will say you make the only safe choice. I am not sure yet who is right. Neither are we, Mara said. We are just very, very tired. There was a brief crackle, as if something heavy shifted inside Atha. Before we go, Mara said, there is one more thing you must hear. Across the Armada, crews leaned closer to their consoles. In your data, Mara said, you have seen the small fault we burned shut. You have seen how it felt wrong. That was a minor thing, a natural slip where the outside pressed in with its fingers. Her voice roughened. "There are worse doors," she said. "Ones that did not form on their own. Ones your kind and others helped pry open with experiments and pride." In her hidden lab, Lena Voss froze. "Edge projects," she breathed. "We have seen the marks of your old work," Mara said. "All of you. Human, Keth, Haleri, others. You thought you were testing harmless ideas in lonely places. The outside remembers every cut you made." Her tone was not cruel, just very, very tired. "You must not repeat that," she said. "Do not try to build your own atlas. Do not try to copy our seams. If you do, you will give the outside more edges to catch." Silence held. Then she added, more softly, "And if some of you cannot stop yourselves, at least do it far from the worlds you love, so that when it goes wrong, there is something left behind the fire, on Earth, in a quiet side room." Lena closed her eyes. "I hear you," she said to the empty air. The end, when it came, was gentle. Atlas sent a last soft broadcast on all channels, translated into every tongue the coalition used. "This is Atos," Mara said. "We are not your first boundary. We may not be your last. We are only the one you can see today." Her voice seemed a little lighter now, as if choosing had eased some inner weight. "Our weapons are meant for doors," she said, "not for you. Remember that when you look up and feel small, small is not the same as helpless. Sometimes small means you cannot be seen by what hunts until it is too late for it." She drew in a breath that hissed over the link. "We will go now," she said. "We leave you pieces of data, fragments of how space bends when it thins. That is enough to warn you. Not enough to teach you to cut it deeper." Maya Caldwell saw new files arrive, marked with Atlas's code. Her fingers hitched to open them, but she waited until Admiral Shaw's clearance flashed beside them. On Lyric Gate, Tessarin saw similar packets in the shared archive and smiled sadly. "They gave us just enough to worry better," she said. Out at the edge, engines that did not look like engines began to stir. The golden lines along Atlas Hass's hull brightened, each seam glowing like a bar of metal, fresh from a forge. The strange wake behind the ship deepened, its cuts in starlight a little sharper than before. On a cord, Sin watched. "You walk away," it said quietly. "Yes," Mara's voice came back, "because staying near you too long would bring the outside's weight down on your maps. Because we are already too much of a doorframe. Because love of home is not always safe." Sign bowed its head, a fraction. An old Keth sign of respect. "Then go." It said, "Hold your doors. We will watch our cracks. We will tell our children that once a human ship came back from beyond the map and chose not to conquer. On Earth, Admiral Shaw stood with her hands behind her back and watched the same image on a large wall. "Good luck, Mara," she said softly. "Come home again, if you can. But only if it won't kill you, or us, in hundreds of places," Human and alien, people watched as Atlas began to turn. It did not pivot like a normal ship. Space bent around it in a smooth, slow twist, as if the universe itself made room for the change, of course. Stars slid in strange arcs across its black hull, then snapped back. Atala's bow swung away from the crowded heart of shared space and aimed itself back toward the forgotten corridors, the thin, low-traffic regions, the quiet gulfs where sensors rarely looked too closely. Its engines, if that word still fit, came fully alive. The reality-cut wake behind it widened, a low, silent scar that healed only slowly as it moved. For a brief moment, every ship nearby felt lighter or heavier, by a hair, as if gravity itself had blinked. Then Atlas began to glide, not fast at first, just a steady, sure drift away from the wall of guns and flags and worried eyes. Some captains found themselves holding their breath, as if any loud sound might break this fragile peace. "Do we follow?" A human admiral on a side ship asked. Sign answered before Shaw could. "No," it said. "Not past the agreed line. We do not know what their engines do to the substance of space. We will track them by distant eyes only." On Halcyon, Captain Gray watched the big ship shrink slowly. "Feels wrong to just let it go," her tactical officer said. Gray nodded. "It also feels wrong to shoot at the only thing we've seen that can push back against whatever that black oval was," she said. "Wrong comes in pairs today." They stood in silence as Atlas slipped farther into the dim starfield. In Colorado Springs, Dr. Maya Caldwell opened the new Atlas files at last. They were small, compared to what she had hoped for. Simple charts. Timelines of when and where small faults had begun to form in local space around the galaxy with no clear cause, most of them nowhere near any known experiment site. A short note in plain text from Mara. "You are not the only hand that ever touched these walls. Some cracks are older than your words for them. Do not take all the blame. Do not take known." Maya sat back. "The outside has always pushed," she said quietly. "We just put new fingers on the glass." Nightish peered over her shoulder. "Is there anything in there we can use to stop it?" he asked. "Maybe," Maya said. "Patterns of strain, places to avoid, weak zones to watch." She sighed. "But nothing?" "Clean," she said. "No magic button, just hard work spread over centuries. That might be the kindest thing they could do. No shortcuts." She saved the files to an offline drive and locked it in a safe. "Back to slow science," she said. "The kind that doesn't try to be a god." In her secure lab, Lena Voss read the same note and let out a long breath. "Some cracks are older than your words," she repeated. "We didn't start it. We only joined in." The guilt she had carried for years shifted slightly, not gone, but no longer the whole story. She opened a blank file and wrote a single sentence. "No new edge experiments without full outside risk review." Then she sent it to Admiral Shaw with a simple line, "We have been told clearly." Then she sent it to Admiral Shaw with a simple line, "We have been told. Now we decide if we are adults." On Lyric Gate, archivist Thessa Rin added a new record to the forbidden tier. Tilly, return of human vessel Atlas. Summary: ship, vanished centuries. Ego, returned altered. Linked to extraphysical region. Claimed role as door holder. Left again into thin space. Provided limited data. Pattern matches PR boundary OB checks. But with a crucial difference. This time, it warned at us. She paused, then added, "Noto. Unique previous case. Primary actors showed a wariness of pattern and chose a less damaging path. This may change outcome." She closed the file with care. Far out in the forgotten corridors, where stars were thin and maps were only pale, guesses at its hull, human footsteps still echoed on some decks. Human hands still gripped rails and controls, but other systems ran in silence, following rules that had not existed when the ship had first launched. In a dim command room, Captain Mara Yillian sat in her chair. Her hair was gray now, in ways that did not match normal time. Her face looked both too old and too young, as if it had seen centuries and minutes together. Around her, some of her crew watched the nearest stars blur past in strange curves. "Do you think they understood?" a navigator asked. Mara thought of Shaw's steady voice, Sign's careful respect, Maya's sharp mind, Thessa's old patterns. "They understood enough," she said. "Enough to be afraid of the right things. That's more than we had when we left." The navigator glanced at the golden lines on the hull displays. They asked, "Are we still us?" Mara flexed her fingers, feeling the faint, wrong tingle that always came when Atlas cut space. "We are enough," she said. "Enough to keep holding, enough to remember why." She looked out at the thin space ahead, at the places where her strange senses already felt small tensions. "There," she said softly, pointing. 2 degrees up, 5 light minutes ahead. "I feel a crack starting." The crew moved with practiced motions. "Bring the seam coils up," Mara ordered. "Charge the doors." As the golden veins along the hull began to shine brighter, she let herself think of Earth one last time, the smell of old paper in her grandfather's office, the sound of rain on a tin roof in a back alley in Rio, the rough cheer of dock workers when Atlas had first launched, still innocent, still only a human toy. "Hold fast," she murmured to herself. "For them, for all of them, even for those who will never know our name." Atlas bent space, far ahead, in some thin, quiet place where no one else was looking. A tiny, dark line started to form. Back at the edge of human space, the Coalition Armada slowly, carefully began to pull back from its tight, fearful wall. Ships peeled away, their lights dimmed to normal watch levels. Patrol routes shifted back to more usual patterns. though now they included new waypoints marked Thin Zone Monitor for anomalies. On a chord high martial scene, watched the last clear ping from Atlas. Transponder fade into noise. Do you think it will come back? An aide asked. Sign thought of old patterns and new choices. I think the universe is not done with doors, it said. So I think Atlas, or something like it, will stand in front of them again. Whether it is the same people, I do not know. It turned away from the dead screen. For now, Sin said, we hold our own lines, we keep watch, and we remember that not every threat comes with guns. On Earth and other worlds, life went on. Children still played in station parks, kicking balls that drifted in slow arcs under low gravity. Miners still suited up and walked out across gray rock to check drill heads. Traders still haggled over fuel prices and food shipments and docking fees. But sometimes, in quiet moments, people looked up at the stars and thought about doors. In schoolrooms, teachers adjusted their lessons. They still taught about gravity and light, about orbits and engines. But now, in the last weeks of older students' courses, a new slide appeared. A simple drawing of a crack in a wall, with a note, space may have faults. Some are natural, some are I doing. Our choices matter. In news feeds, Daniel Reyes gave smaller, calmer updates. Atlas has left the border, he said. Our sensors track it in deep space. We have not seen more doors near us. We continue to work with our allies to watch for strange events and to slow risky experiments. He always ended with a simple line, the universe is wider and less empty than we thought. That is scary. It is also honest. We will live with that. In labs, people like Dr. Tyre, Maya Caldwell and Lena Voss changed what they aimed for. They still love to ask, what if? But they added a new question. At what cost? Some black programs were shut down. Others were rebuilt with more eyes watching. At Lyric Gate, Fessa Rin walked the aisles of old records and felt, for the first time in a long while, a thin, sharp hope. Patterns could repeat, but minds could learn. Out beyond charts, in the quiet between thin stars, something old and patient kept pressing at the walls. Here and there, small lines formed. Some closed on their own, some did not. In a stretch of dark few sensors ever watched, a fault began to open wider, hungry and slow. Before it could grow, a black shape with golden veins slid into place in front of it. The lines along Atlas' hull burned bright, brighter than any sun in that thin region had shone for a long time. Space shuddered. The crack shrank. If any eyes had been there to see, they would have watched a human ship stand between what was and what might break it. They would have heard, maybe, a tired voice on a closed loop say again. And then, a moment later, still here. But no one was there. That was all right. Back on the crowded worlds, people slept under skies they thought were solid. They argued over small things, taxes, art, love, sport. They planned for futures that did not include words like outside and doorframe. Atlas had come back long enough to tell them, the universe is larger than your plans, and there are things you do not see that still care if you go on. Then it had turned away, taking its strange, dangerous power with it, out into the dark. The legend lived again. Not as a simple ghost ship or a lost gun, but as a line drawn quietly between normal space and a deeper, older layer of reality. What came next would depend on two things: how well those on the safe side remembered the warning, and how long those on the thin side could keep holding the doors